whole world's been told that you're trying to sell the President of the United States' Senate seat for financial gain.
The reason that we find such high value in the Trustforum for Unit 7, and for me personally, is how important it is to bring back being genuine in how we communicate with people and the promises that we make to them in a way that they would begin to believe us again.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being at our Trustforum too. In just a few minutes, we'll be bringing a one-on-one conversation with Chris Cuomo and the former governor of Illinois, Rod Blagojevich. If I could just, without further ado, bring Rod and Chris to the stage.
They sold to the people that I was selling that Senate seat for money. And that's just a flat-out lie. And there's no conversation or tape or anything that proves anything like that.
Does it matter whether or not the charges are real? Does it matter in politics anymore? Do you think people will ever believe you as to whether or not something is true about you? And do you think ultimately it will affect your ability to sell yourself going forward?
That's a great question, Chris.
It's the only kind I ask.
Well, yes. I'm fighting back to try to clear my name and preserve my liberty, not to mention the fact that my whole life has been about the things that my parents taught me, the values they taught me. That's at stake here. My little girls and their future, that's at stake here. What their dad is and what he stands for, all that is part of this process. And I really believe, and this goes, I think, to branding, and I think this is what happens when your product is under assault. If you believe in your product, and I certainly believe in the truth of what my circumstances are, that I did nothing wrong, that my intent was honest, that I acted in good faith, then if you listen to a lot of the traditional lawyers, they'll say, don't say anything, because anything you say, they'll come and use that against you in a court of law. On the other hand, your common sense tells you when your product is under assault and you believe in it, you need to fight back and stand up. Don't take flight, but fight.
Bottom line, politics is an ugly game, and the horse trading you were doing, you believe, was just a legitimate part of the business. True?
You wish, and I used to, as governor, wish I can just go to the legislative leaders and say, hey, look, this is the right thing to do for children. Let's give them health care. Why do I have to trade something for that? And yet, the way the business works is, that's how it operates. There's a smoking gun in the tape that the government even played, Chris, and it was this. I talked about an idea, and I'm coming up with creative thoughts. Before you act on these things, I want to bounce it off my advisors to see if they make any sense or not. The way to get things done in government sometimes is you got to think outside the box. The way you do business successfully is sometimes you think outside the box. And so you want to throw out every possible idea you can come up with, and a lot of them are stupid. I should see if there's an ambassadorship available. Not that I really sincerely thought I was going to get that, but let's look and see what the options are. Let's talk about ideas, good, bad, ugly, stupid. Let's brainstorm and do it openly on the telephone with your staffers and lawyers, and not a single one of them ever said, hey, wait a minute, you can't do that, that's not legal. They said, hey, it's stupid. They'll never make you ambassador to the Court of St. James, or you know, you're not going to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services and all the rest. But no one, and rightfully, said it's illegal. Humiliating, it's embarrassing, some of these conversations. They're not illegal. They're, in fact, again, it's me asking for advice. I have said, play all the tapes publicly and release all the evidence publicly. And I'll say this now, I'll challenge the prosecutors. I will go to court and instruct my lawyers, if they'll agree, to give the media all of the evidence in these cases, all the FBI interviews, all of the taped conversations, so you can see the full story as it unfolds. And I would argue that my case is a poster child for the reforms that are necessary to put a check and balance on some of these prosecutors who are using their offices for their own political agenda, because it's a big deal if they can get a big name and get a big trophy. They made a decision at some point to try to get me. For 5-6 years they were targeting me. 179 FBI agents asking anybody they could find whether or not I gambled, which I don't. Do I do drugs, which I don't. Do I cheat on my wife, which I don't. On December the 9th, 2008, at 6 o'clock in the morning, when the FBI and the government was in my house arresting me as a sitting governor, and then a press conference was given by the prosecutor saying that he was stopping a crime spree before it happened. When you get that kind of power, who checks that? Nobody checks that. And that's what I think. You worry about money in politics, you're not wrong to have that fear. But I think the bigger fear to our democracy is these powerful prosecutors who can do this sort of thing to even a governor of the fifth biggest state in America. If they can do that to me, imagine what they do to ordinary people if they choose to do that.